Do you know that you may have genes or you may not have the genes to be a successful entrepreneur? That is our topic today. We are talking to Harvey Castro today about this topic, who's written an article on this on LinkedIn, has written a couple of books. And I hope this is going to help you become a better entrepreneur. My name is Dr. Elsie Coe. I am the founder and CEO of Lead Physician Online Leadership Program for physicians, and also the Chief Medical Officer of American Endovascular and Amputation Prevention. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to be notified for any future podcasts that come up. Harvey Castro, let me introduce him to you. He's a physician, he's a serial entrepreneur, a medical correspondent for four major media outlets. He's also the author of a couple of books. The most recent one is called GPT Healthcare, the key to the new future of medicine. We'll have him talk to you a little bit about that. And also this book called Success Reinvention. No matter where you are in your life or what obstacles you're facing, now is the time to reinvent yourself. I love that. So let me just bring him on right now. Harvey, thank you so much. This is you've written a couple of great books here. Thank you for being on here with me today.
Well, it's an honor being here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's start off with the topic. Do you have the genes to be a successful entrepreneur? How do I know if I have the genes, and how can that help me?
Well, good question. Number one, as a physician, you know very well, we have different genes that determine our personality. For example, if you have issues with your dopamine, you may be super aggressive, you may be not, and so that actually translates into maybe perhaps your risk taker behavior. I know it's not a one size fit all. Like I can just go to 23andMe and test myself, but there are websites out there that will explore the mental capacity that you have and say where you are on different parts of different personalities. And then in theory, you can extract that personality into business. For example, if you're an introvert and you have the gene in the sense that you just don't want to be around people and you don't like doing public speaking, well, that doesn't mean that excludes you as an entrepreneur. It just means that there's certain things in entrepreneurship that you may not want to do podcasts, for example, or something like this, but you may be perfect behind the scenes doing, the inventions or things like that.
Right. I mean, are you pigeonhole? I'm just wondering, like, if we know that there are genes that can make you a better entrepreneur or not, do we test for that, or do we try to get babies that have those genes? I mean, I'm just thinking, like, how does this help us to know whether or not we have those genes, and can that like hurt somebody from saying, you know what, I'm not even meant to do this because it's not my genes.
See, I wish it was so black and white because honestly, I feel like I personally don't have some of those genes,
I
but
don't
yet I'm
either.
successful.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was me. Sorry.
I mean, and we're gonna go into that. Then that's why I feel like I think your genetics can help you up to a point. But even if you have all the genetics and everything lined up perfect, that still doesn't require you to be an entrepreneur or necessarily give you that success. And as far as inbreeding, I can make an argument that
Inbreeding.
if you have two amazing entrepreneurs,
Yep.
will that necessarily equate into the next generation of entrepreneurs?
Yep.
Maybe not. I would
Yep.
argue that maybe it's the environment that you give that next generation
Right.
an opportunity to express those genes. Or I can make the argument, I've seen multiple studies that talk about, for example, successful people or people that were the changers in the world and made millions and billions, but their children did not. Which is fascinating because you would think,
Mm.
oh my gosh, your dad is Rockefeller or someone, Elon Musk. Of course you're gonna grow up to be like just like him, but in reality, maybe not.
Hmm. Uh, are those genes recessive genes, or are they the dominant ones like we know in medicine? So I just, is this all the whole concept of nature versus nurture, right? Which one is really going to help you? And even if you have the genes, are you in the right environment to help allow the gene expression to come about? I always wondered, like when I was earlier on, before I got into leadership, or right in the beginning of it, I used to look at people and say, how the heck, like, this person obviously has it in their genes. And I think a lot of physicians tend to, if we think about it, we tend to have a more of a fixed mindset, and we grow into this, we come into medicine, we come out of training and thinking that this is all we can do. So how does this, my question to you is, I have a few things. Nature versus nurture is kind of what you touched on already, but first of all, why talk about genes as it relates to entrepreneurship, and then how does this relate to physicians in healthcare?
I love talking about it because from a physician point of view, we know the chemical pathway, we know the different meds, we know how to manipulate that. Not that I'm advocating, hey, we need to get on drugs so we can be better entrepreneurs in any way. I just like the science behind it. I think it's fascinating to see how things come to fruition. And I know as a physician, I'll pose this question, not that I'm advocating one type of medicine versus another one, but let's look at the environment of ER docs. Yet, if you look at that, a lot of them tend to come up with inventions and companies. And if you look at who's out there representing medicine, it's a lot of ER docs. And obviously, I'm biased because I'm an ER doc. But I say that because maybe is it the environment? Maybe they hate ER. Maybe they get to a certain point. They're like, God, I'm done with nights, weekends, holidays. I need to find something else. So you can argue, is it the environmental part of their lives pushing them, or is it genetic? Is it that ER doctor loves the adrenaline, loves that stress, loves taking that risk? It's just like that alpha that's going out there, and that's
And did
creating
they
that
choose that
entrepreneur.
field because they knew, right, that's in their genes?
Yeah, so chicken or the egg. So it's fascinating to
It's
me. That's why
interesting.
I
That's a
started.
really interesting topic, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
how
why I
how
kinda wrote about it, just to kinda get the debate out there and just talk about it.
right. So how do you think that can help us, just that thought of it, with how physicians are performing or getting involved in healthcare transformation?
See, I firmly believe if we want change in our healthcare, then us as physicians, we need to take that lead. We need to drive that ship.
Mhm.
For better or worse, if we let someone that's not a physician drive that ship, they're gonna make decisions that affects them from their point of view. We have this feeling that we want to help our patients, and this is why we became doctors, and that's what's driving us. And so I'm pushing us. So how does this all make sense in the big grand scheme of things? It's simple. If you are lacking XY in your entrepreneurship, then my solution is find that mate. Kind of like marriage, find that person that complements you best. Find that other half that maybe you suck at XYZ, but you find that business partner that just is brilliant on that side. Obviously, all of us have made it through med school, residency, all that stuff. We're already at the top 1%, but how can we be at the top 1% in other fields? And
Or
that's
yeah,
why I
it's
brought
just
the
be
subject.
more impactful in how we're practicing medicine.
Yeah.
And I really I'm amazed by the book. First of all, this book that just recently came out, Chat GPT Healthcare. I mean, talk about somebody you said you're not somebody who had those genes, you think, and then yet you're writing. This is your second book. What is GPT, first of all, and tell us how you like transformed yourself into somebody who didn't have the genes, but got the environment to help him be entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Well, just real quick, come from humble beginnings. I'm first generation American. I'm first person to go to college. I grew up in poverty, so I technically on paper should not have made it to where I did. And so I argue that maybe it's the environment itself that just pushed me and gave me a strong why. And so to answer what the heck is this chat GPT? That's like a hard question for me to answer. But since we're doctors, let me give you a quick synopsis of how it would work. Say you're helping a person with diabetes, say they're eating really bad, they have high hemoglobin A1Cs. You could go into ChatGPT and say, hey, give me 3 meals, 5 days a week. This patient is allergic to gluten, eggs, and they hate fruit. And so you put it in, and ChatGPT makes you this amazing list of meals. And you say, okay, now give me the recipes of these meals, and it gives it to you. And then you say, okay, now give me the grocery list. And so this information you cannot get on Google. It would take forever for you to do this, but this literally would take you seconds.
So
Take
are you creating yet another app for this, Harvey?
Actually, it's funny you say that. I cannot stop thinking my wife's gonna kill me one day because I just come up with all these ideas and businesses. So I'm constantly reinventing myself and constantly now looking at consulting different companies and kind of helping them see things at a different way and create new products. And I'm kind of enjoying that time right now.
Yeah, I mean, let me just show the little chapters on you before I ask you another question about how you get to be that way if you're not, if you think you're not. So your table of contents includes in this book and everything from just virtual assistants to population health management, telemedicine, disease remote patient monitoring, and I love clinical decision supports is really what we need, but also this whole communication piece. This is amazing, and how do you start thinking like this when you don't feel like you are born that way?
That's where that strong why, and I kind of write that in my book about success reinvention. I think that strong why that keeps pushing me. At one point, I had over 300 employees, and I decided to go back to school and get my MBA. Did I need it? Probably not, but that strong why pushed me. And so, to answer your question, how I came up with this is kind of simple. Ironically, I did ask ChatGPT. I said, "Hey, give me an outline," and the name of the book is ChatGPT and Healthcare, and it literally gave me an outline. I'm like, perfect. Now that I have an outline, I can start attacking it. And just from a bigger picture, I wasn't my goal is not to sell books. Honestly, I if no one buys the books, that's great. I'm fine with it. My goal is I want to promote our leaders out in the United States and around the world to push this technology. And it doesn't have to be ChatGPT. It's just pushing AI or some sort of technology to help us give better care. And
Yeah.
in my idea is if I can do this, we're helping others.
That's so good. Very good. I look forward to seeing that app because I need that. So this whole success reinvention. I mean, this is when your first book that came out,
Mhm.
and you have a course online, right? If you go
Yes.
to what's your website called?
It's harveycastromd.info.
Okay, harveycastromd.info. Talk to us a little bit about what people can get from joining this course, which I think is nominally priced, right? It's
Yes.
evergreen course.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Honestly, I feel like we all have tools to succeed. Obviously, we wouldn't be physicians if we didn't have those tools. But I thought, what about our children? What about people around us? What about ourselves? Like you mentioned it earlier today, once we get to a certain point, we kind of get complacent. And so I thought, let me create a course. Ironically, I was making it really for my college son. And then later I thought, I should probably do this for high school kids. And then later I was like, well, my main goal is adults. So I made two courses, but it's the same thing. Just one of them is specifically talking to a college/high school student. And what you get out of it, my goals is just the principles of the book for the new generations that they just don't want to read or they just want a podcast or they want something quick. I thought, let me do a digital course. That way, it kind of gives them that video and some interactions and questions, and that way, it's kind of more fun than just reading a book.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, you know what? Thank you so much for being on this quick podcast. If you're interested in finding out more information about how you can reinvent yourself, go to his website at harveycastromd.info. And I believe your LinkedIn is at Harvey Castro MD and other social media feeds. Um, tell us. So I just want to just reiterate, even though this whole podcast is on, do you have the genes to be a successful entrepreneur? The whole point is, yes, there are some people who and correct me if I'm wrong, there are people out there we know were born to be entrepreneurial. They went out and started selling coke at a young age, like Warren Buffett did, I think.
Yeah,
But what for those of us who aren't, who don't feel like we had that edge, it can be learned, right? There
I think
is that environmental piece.
I think so. And real quick, just since we're all doctors here, or majority of healthcare, we all have related to Van Gogh. We all have been taught this in medical school. Look at Van Gogh. Was it his environment? Was it his mind that caused him to make that art? Was he toxic on lithium, and that's what gave him that art? Or what was it? Or was it his gene? So I'm going to leave you guys with that, so you guys can kind of think about that. Because I mean, there's ways to be done. It doesn't have to be done the traditional way.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Join us at leadphysician.org if you are also interested in getting leadership training for yourself. My name is Dr. Elsie Coe. You can also reach out to me at info@drelsiecoe.com if you have a topic on physician leadership that you want to talk about on this podcast. I would love to hear from you. Any last words for us as we close?
Yeah, I always end with the same thing. I say, at the end of the day, make each day the most and hug your loved ones around you and appreciate every day of life. As an ER doctor, I'm humbled by what I see. So I always say, just make it your best today.
I love that. Make it real. Thank you, everybody.